6 Financial Rules of Thumb. Financial rules of thumb are standards which may not be precise, but act as guidance when planning for various financial aspects of one's life, such as retirement and investment. They create a way, or act as a starting point for those who have no idea how to go about these decisions. This episode will cover the 6 financial rules of thumb. We'll also take a look at how these rules work, why they work, and when to know if a rule of thumb isn't right for your situation. But before we go too far, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the future episodes about financial security. 1. The 50-30-20 budgeting rule. This is a popular rule for breaking down your budget. The 50-30-20 rule is 50% of your income for necessities like housing and bills, 30% for wants like dining or entertainment, and 20% for financial goals like paying off debt or saving for retirement. There are looser variations to this rule, like the 80-20 rule, in which you use 20% of your income for financial goals and spend 80% on everything else. Why it works. If you're not sure where to start with a budget, breaking it up into these basic categories can be really helpful. Those percentages help create a balance between obligations, goals, and splurges. When it doesn't. If you're not earning much, you might not have the luxury of only spending half your income on necessities. You can always make a budget that's more tailored to your situation. Start from scratch and follow some budgeting steps to design a plan that works best for you. 2. Hold 6 months of expenses in your emergency fund. You should have 6 months worth of savings on hand in case of an emergency. Most experts recommend keeping 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in an emergency fund, but some situations warrant more. Some experts recommend a smaller emergency fund while you're paying off debt. If your job is secure and you don't have a lot of expenses, you may be able to save less. Why it works. Obviously, this is a big help in case an emergency arises in your life. It keeps you from having to make desperate decisions that can set you back. Why it doesn't. There are many different opinions on how much you should save, but as we know from the pandemic, even this may not be enough. It can be really hard to hear, you should save an emergency fund when you're broke. 3. The rule of 25 for retirement. It's difficult to know the exact amount of money you'll need to have in your retirement account by the time you're ready to leave the workforce for good. But that doesn't mean you can't come up with a target savings amount. The multiply by 25 rule gives you a starting point for your retirement savings by using your ideal annual retirement income. The multiply by 25 rule is relatively straightforward to apply. First, figure out what annual salary you'd like to have during retirement. Then, multiply that amount by 25 to determine the total amount you need to save up for retirement. For example, if you want to live off $60,000 per year in retirement, you'd need $1.5 million saved by the time you retire, $60,000 by 25. Why it works. It gives people a simple number to work with. If you're young, just open a 401k, and you're not sure how much of your earnings to set aside, 10% is a good start. When it doesn't. While 10% is a simple rule to follow, the percentage doesn't consider how much you'll actually need in retirement. It also doesn't consider how much you've currently saved. If you're playing catch up, you'll probably need to save considerably more than 10% of your income. Similarly, if you want to retire early or more lavishly, you'll likely need to save more than 10%. 4. The rule of 72. The rule of 72 is a formula that lets you get a close approximation of how long it would take for an investment to double considering its set rate of return, an estimation that factors compound interest without requiring you to do the more complex math required in calculating compound interest. Using the rule of 72 allows you to have a solid idea when your investment would double just from the investment rate. Very conveniently, the number 72 divides cleanly into 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 9, and 12, allowing for a quick and simple division problem instead of your usual compound interest problem. Why it works. The rule of 72 can give you an idea of how many doubles you'll get in your lifetime. With more time, a lower interest rate may give you enough to nail your goals. With less time, you may need a higher interest rate. The rule of 72 also helps investors understand how long it will take for their initial investment to double. Understanding at an early age how money grows is important. When it doesn't. The rule of 72 does have some limitations. One is that it can only be applied to compound interest, not simple interest. Compound interest adds the interest earned to the principal, then it pays interest on that larger amount. 5. The rule of 110. The rule of 110 offers a guideline for equity exposure based on your age. To use the rule, subtract your age from 110. The answer is an appropriate percentage of stocks or stock funds to hold in your retirement account, to put you into a more defensive stance as you near retirement. Why it works. The rule of 110 is a rule of thumb that says the percentage of your money invested in stocks should be equal to 110 minus your age. So if you're 30 years old, the rule of 110 states you should have 80%, 110 minus 30, of your money invested in stocks and 20% invested in bonds. If you're 50 years old, the rule states that you should have 60% of your money invested in stocks and 40% invested in bonds. The idea is rather simple the younger you are, the longer you have until retirement and are better able to weather the storm of downturns in the stock market, so it makes sense to be more aggressive. In the early phase of your life, the primary goal is to build your wealth. If you're nearing retirement and plan on living off your investments in the short term, you would have less time to make back any losses in the stock market. Once you near retirement age, the name of the game changes from wealth creation to wealth retention. When it doesn't, the rule of 110 can be altered depending on your risk tolerance. Some people have more appetite for risk go by the rule of 120, which would mean a higher allocation towards stocks, while some people have less appetite for risk go by the rule of 100, which would mean a higher allocation towards bonds. 6. Spend less than 30% of your income on mortgage repayment or rent. When renting an apartment or house, it's important to determine how much you should spend on rent to keep your budget manageable. The 30% rule is one guideline for determining what you should pay. This rule of thumb for rent dictates spending no more than 30% of your income on housing each month. The reasoning behind it is that by capping your rent payment at 30% of your monthly income, you'll still have plenty of money left to cover other living expenses and to work toward your financial goals. Why it works. It ensures that you don't buy more home than you can afford, lowers your monthly mortgage cost, and can increase your chances of being approved for the loan. You also won't have to pay private mortgage insurance. When it doesn't. While this is commonly accepted as practical advice, opinions can vary. Some consider 30% unrealistic as it's an overwhelming amount to save. These general rules give you an approximate amount to start with when thinking about home ownership, but there's a long list of expenses, including closing costs, to consider too, and it all varies. That's it for this episode. Please give us your feedback in the comments section below. To watch more episodes on financial topics like this, hit that like and subscribe button. If you want to support us even more, buy us a coffee from the link in the description. Good luck, and see you in the next episode.